Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jayantari, co-founder of Sangeet Foundation, with another fabulous episode and with a very important topic. So I'm logging in from the UK. It's quite bright and sunny outside, and it's lovely weather. So I'm sure you would also be having lovely weather elsewhere. Hopefully so. So we will have this session right now. I will not take the um, uh, I'll not basically reveal exactly what's going to happen, because the people are very important people who have been through this journey of human trafficking and of mental health, and we'll be hearing from them today. But before that, we are raising funds for Oxlia NHS Trust for mental health, and I would request you to contribute to this fund. This is the Oxlius NHS Foundation Trust in London, and this is for a fabulous cause to raise funds, and this is for creating awareness about mental health using music and the arts. And given the fact that it's such a taboo topic, we in Sangeet Foundation believe that we should do more about creating awareness, because if you are aware, you can save lives. Sangeet Foundation has been working with various universities, doing a lot of research work, De Montfort University of Leicester, SOAS in London, and we have also been working with NHS to create this awareness and using music and the arts as a complementary therapy. So with that short introduction, we've been doing a lot of other programs. Do join us on Sangeet Foundation website, sangeetfoundation.org, as well as the YouTube channel where all the programs are stored. You can go and revisit all the fabulous programs from the past, and you will see that in the future as well. So with that, I'd like to introduce the host for the evening today, Indrani Bhattacharya, who's the head of programs in Sangeet Foundation. She's basically master's in English from Presidency University of Kolkata, and she teaches in senior school in the UK, and she's very passionate about mental health, and she has been organizing quite a few programs and hosting quite a few programs for Sangeet Foundation. So with that, welcome Indrani to the event.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan, for that lovely introduction. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am Indrani Bhattacharya, and it's such a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to be hosting these events for Sangeet Foundation, of course. And today is no different, but it is very different again because it has some really, really important people that I am going to talk to. It's not about music. It is about mental health. It is about human trafficking. And it's again, like the last time we did, it is a different song to sing. So who are the men I have with me today? Certainly a privilege and an honor. Please welcome on board Robert. Robert, who is the Ohio Valley Outreach Director for U.S. Global Leadership Coalition. He joined the USGLC after completing a fellowship with the Office of Senator John Donnelly, where he focused on the FY18 National Defense Authorization Act. He worked on a variety of international security issues while interning with the Security Assistant Monitor at the Center for International Policy and the Center for Political Military Analysis at the Hudson Institute. As a student, he studied Arabic in Morocco, the Western Sahara, and at the American University of Beirut in Lebanon. Robert holds a bachelor's degree from DePaul University and a master's degree in international studies from the University of Denver. Here we have Robert Watson with us. Robert, such a privilege and an honor to have you on board.
Thank you, Indra.
Welcome to Eyes Open International and Sangeet Foundation's program. Before I actually start asking you more questions, Robert, I will introduce the other two the panelists we have here today. The other person, of course, a second person, he has been with us before as well, is Hriday Raval. Hriday is the director of the Data DevTech Private Limited, recruiting and inserting the futuristic encryption into everything possible to secure personal data in. Hriday is the co-founder and the chief operating officer at Bharat Media LLC, called Bharat FM. Hriday and his team in less than 2 months succeeded in bringing prominent Bollywood stars, scientists, authors, and journalists to their shows on Bharat FM. During Harold D'Souza's visit to India in 2019, Hriday organized various seminars and news and interviews for him and hosted him at his house for a week. Hriday and his family have been helpful to the community since ages, and seeing this, of course, Harold D'Souza appointed Hriday Raval as the regional director India for his non-profit Eyes Open International. So welcome, Hriday. I know there was a lot more I could have read even for Robert, but we had to cut it short. But there's so much you guys have done that I couldn't fit it in. And of course, the star always, of course, Harold D'Souza, who is a survivor of labor trafficking and debt bondage in the United States of America. A very well-educated man, Harold stepped down from a senior management position to pursue his American dream. Harold came to America following the advice and help of the man who was to become his perpetrator. For over 18 months, Harold was exploited continuously, losing his freedom and struggling to keep his family safe. He went through it all and more, and today he's a survivor, advocate, and a public speaker. President Barack Obama appointed Harold to the United States Advisory Council on Human Trafficking in 2015, and he has continued the same under President Trump through 2020. He is also an expert consultant to the Department of the State's Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons. He is also the co-founder of Eyes Open International, a non-profit focused organization focused on developing prevention efforts through survivors-informed research. Wow. I mean, I know I could have read pages for you guys, and there's so much more you have done. But welcome, Harold, once more to our, to our program, and a warm welcome to all of you on this platform of Sangeet Foundation and Eyes Open International. All right, Robert. So you are going to be starting us off today. Robert, as you are aware, we titled the program 40.3 million. Worldwide, silent or silence. Now, that's a fact, right, Robert? It's a fact, it's a statistic. And so we have 40.3 million or more, counting, are victims of human trafficking. When I was doing this research, Robert, this was really shocking to me because I couldn't believe that, that was the number we are really looking at. Can you just explain to me, Robert, is this real? Are we as the people who are probably in a more advantageous position, are we really removed from reality? And is that the truth that I just gave to you?
Yeah, I think you hit on an important point. I mean, we've seen so much trafficking, so much slavery, more than the world has ever seen. And in large part, that's a result of how connected we are globally, right? We enjoy the benefits of a modern lifestyle, especially here in the United States, but we don't see the suffering that goes on underneath. It is driven by these economic pressures, the lack of protections for victims. And as I mentioned, it's a symptom of a global economy, and of course that slavery and human trafficking grows in that space when you don't crack down on it. It's $150 billion business. And it undermines growth, traps victims and their families in intergenerational cycles of debt bondage. And traffickers also target the most vulnerable populations. We know this in liminal spaces, including refugees, migrants, seasonal workers. And with so many people moving around the world more than ever before, it's easier for people to get caught in these things.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, it's very, very shocking. And 40.3 million is probably something that's the data past, and it's probably adding, we are adding to it every minute. So just coming to you, Harold, from there. So the 40.3 million that we are talking about and we are harping about today, you were one of them, correct? So you were one of that 40.3 million. So my question to you is, now you are an advocate, you're working for the cause. How many of these numbers do you think have been trafficked and they have survived that? So we are, 40.3 million is the larger picture. How many do you believe, you are one of the survivors, of course, of that. And so how many do you believe are trafficked and they have survived that? And what's the difference between the mental health or the mind of a victim and a survivor?
Indrani, I think this is a very, very crucial question. I think people across the globe should know about this. Like when we say like 40 plus million victims are there, and all the stats, and Robert can jump in later. Like, I always tell that if there are 10 victims of human trafficking, it could be labor or sex, I think like only two make it. 8 don't make it in terms of hunting. Because see, there is no mapping. I always tell we need to map victims and survivors. Okay, after 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, where they are. Most of the time, whenever you rescue a victim, they get re-victimized. They're back to the trafficker. That's one. Number two, out of 10, I was talking to one of the law enforcement agencies just a couple of days back. I always say that 9 do not get prosecuted. And that delegate law enforcement agency said, Harold, not 9 or 10 out of 10 do not get prosecuted. So we have to accept the reality. That's one. And today also with the digital world, with education awareness and with the social media, with the iPhone, all this technology, it is very shocking that human trafficking has increased. During the pandemic, human trafficking has increased. So I think like what today Sangeet Foundation is doing is fabulous. Today what Robert is doing, Robert Watson from DC, coming and joining us and educating people across the globe. Because today victims, survivors, vulnerable populations and community members are watching globally. And this is what we have to do. This might be a small step, but it's a very huge step. Coming to the point of mental health, all victims are having mental health, but they don't accept it, or they do not share in the society or in the community with the friends, families, because it's a stigma. People don't accept it, and that's why what Sangeet Foundation is doing is pretty strong. Mental health is not a stigma, it's a sickness. Like you got appendix, you get fever, you get COVID. So same way you can get mental health. There is nothing wrong. It's not that he's mentally retarded. But if I go and tell in India that I got mental issues, I go for counseling, people say, what the hell? This fellow is gone case. He's mental. I'll not get a job. If I'm a bachelor, I'll not get a girl. I'll not get married. And the community throws you out of the society. And this I personally experienced. So this mental health is very, very important. It can happen to anyone, even if you're not a victim of human trafficking. But you are a victim of human trafficking, 100% you have mental health issues. And because you get traumatized and abused every second, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, and for months and years. It's not one time, it's million times. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what Robert rightly said, this is a huge market, right, Robert? It's a market for people to, and then, Harold said that the victims become survivors and then they're re-victimized. So that is actually a vicious circle, a circle that probably people can't get out of for whatever reason. So Hriday, just coming to you, you deal with these men and women, every day. I know because Eyes Open International, this is one of the focus points for you that you deal with it, and you are doing a great job of that in India. Can you just tell me that 40.3 million is a huge percentage, even if we talk percentage wise, it's quite a chunk of the population, so where are these people? They can't be very far from us. They can't be, I'm not going to say that, they have to be located very, very far and we can't see them. They have to be amongst us. What are we looking for, Harold? And then I would, of course, like to tell you to tell us also how Eyes Open International is working, towards trying to reduce the number if possible right now. Yeah, Hriday.
So the answer to this question is already you said these are amongst us. So if I consider a case of Harold D'Souza, before he opened up and speak that yes, I am a victim of human trafficking, nobody knows about him. Many of people have gone through that restaurant where he was victimized, but they didn't knew that he was a victim of human trafficking. Like that, there are many people in our vicinity also. You can't know. If I talk about India, in India, human trafficking is done at various places. For labor, we have many child laborers in mines and factories and all. And also there is sex trafficking mainly in Mumbai and Kolkata. But the thing is that people don't come out. They don't know that yes, I am a victim of human trafficking. They are in search for money. They don't have proper job, so they get trapped into this trafficker situation. They tell that yes, you can get this money and you can join our organization and that thing. So they went to that organization, and after certain days they are being trafficked. They they don't means they are not made to supposed to tell to the society. They are isolated completely. They don't have phones, they have nothing, and they can't communicate to anyone. Also, they set fear in their mind. What you talk about mental health, so they set a fear in their mind that yes, if you talk to anyone, then we will kill you. Or if they have family, they will tell that yes, we will kill your family and all. So if you are traveling in plane, you don't know that the next person sitting beside you may be a victim of human trafficking. You have to see the signs of human trafficking. The trafficker will be besides him or her. He will not allow him to speak, and that person will be in depression. He will not speak anything. If a officer comes to the victim and ask anything, the trafficker besides him will answer the question on his or her behalf. So that are the some signs of human trafficking that you need to know and see that yes, this is the he or she may be the victim of human trafficking. At the same time, you should know the resources also, that yes, we have suspect anyone, so we have call or email to these resources, and they will help them, like the police department, local law enforcement agencies, human trafficking. There is a human trafficking hotline number of Polaris in the United States. Likewise, we are planning to have a human trafficking hotline number in India too. So what Eyes Open International is doing in India, so basically our primary goal focus is to save the victims of human trafficking, also do awareness so people can know what human trafficking is, how they should not fall into the traffickers prey or something. And there's an organization called Clouding Niwas. This is an example. This Clouding Niwas picks girls, small girls from railway station, bus stands, and other remote areas where they are the potential victims of sex trafficking, and some of girls are being abused too. So they adopt these girls, they provide them shelter, food, clothing. They have school in their own campus, so they try to educate them. They also provide them job. They try to find their job. They also try to marry them according to the girl's wish, no matter of what religion. So we are now collaborating with we have collaborated with Inox India. So it's a $500,000 project. We have already built 6 toilets for the girls over there, and we are building bathrooms. We are providing them benches, books, and all of those things. So this process we are doing besides human trafficking. So if we talk about LGBTQ community, so there are many people in the LGBTQ community who are also the victims of human trafficking. So likewise, we have collaborated with Lakshya Trust. So we are making awareness on the LGBTQ community, that many people in this community are being thrown out of the society. They are not being accepted. So we are making awareness on that. Also at the same time, we are setting a chain where we can rescue the LGBTQ community from becoming a victim of human trafficking.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Hriday. Of course, you're doing a lot of work, and that is required work as well. So coming to you, Robert, just a way off question from what you said before is that, before I actually, first time when I spoke to Harold, and when we did a program with Harold, before that, honestly, I believed myself to be educated, but I wasn't educated enough about human trafficking and really what it stands for. And, studying further into this, thanks to Harold and Hriday, when we went more into this, I actually saw that it's these developed countries, the US, the UK, that actually promotes this even more. The bigger industry of this kind of human trafficking is in these developed countries, or so-called superpowers. I mean, that is really shocking as well, isn't it? To think that I am not a part of it. I am not there, so it must be removed from me. So I think it's very important for people like me, the layman who is not really into this or working with this, to understand that we are so much a part of the same crowd, right? I mean, I don't know, Robert, is that something that you would agree to, or?
I think that's very salient. It's a problem that lurks just underneath the surface, and it is hard to identify, as Harold and Hriday mentioned. In the United States, so the states that I actually work with, Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois, sit on the I-70 pipeline, right? It's a highway that runs all the way across the country, and much of persons trafficked across the country go through this pipeline, and so you see a lot of inexperienced law enforcement encountering problems that they don't know how to deal with, and maybe we'll get to the continued presence here in a moment, but that front personal interaction is where a lot of this work needs to be done. And it is easy for us to forget that, in many ways, our lifestyles are contributing to the problems that create the space for human trafficking and slavery generally. So it is important in the United States, especially, to look at it not only as a humanitarian problem, but an economic one as well, which is unfortunately the language you have to get policymakers involved in talking about these things.
I know. I mean, it's shocking, really. But yeah, that was just my question that I had. But Robert, the question that I really wanted to ask you was more of a legal, or the government, what the government is doing is about the continued presence status, or CPS. So the question to you is, are CPS being issued? What's happening, and who are eligible? For our viewers, the U visa also. So if we can start with CPS, what's happening, or how is the government working on?
Yeah, so there are a number of mechanisms that are being used to address the problem, but so continued presence status is something that is designated by law enforcement. So when, as I understand it, when law enforcement encounters someone they think is being trafficked, they can essentially issue the status on them that gives them space to operate and live in the United States while the visa process things work in the background. And I think it's T visas that the continued presence are associated with, and T visas. There are actually fewer T visas than there are U visas, but T visas are specifically for people who have been trafficked into the United States. And this requirement also, how should I say this, requires that those trafficked people that are identified through this program assist law enforcement in bringing the perpetrators to justice as well. And that's a big portion. I mean, the United States, like I mentioned, has a number of programs. The State Department's Office to monitor and combat trafficking in persons does the majority of this work. And a lot of that is training law enforcement, prosecutors, things like that around the world in the ways to identify this and to prosecute it, et cetera. So there's a lot of education to be done, like you mentioned. Oh, sorry, Indrani, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes. So the U visa is caps it off at 10,000 right now. I have read and I've been told as well. So is there any chance of that actually moving up to 25,000? To cap it off at 25,000 per year? And also, can work permit be issued to applicants of U visa? Are you aware of any of that happening soon?
Well, as of now, I think there's potential. I mean, this has been ongoing conversation for a long time, but potential that these caps would be raised. The Biden administration right now is facing a lot of political upheaval around the issue of immigration. I mean, especially at the United States' southern border. There are reforms that need to be made, and a conversation on how we actually want to go about solving this problem. But I think, at the moment, the legislation was in the House. I need to look at it, but this legislation in the House proposes raising these caps. Whether that can make it past the Senate is another thing. But I think there is growing political support for raising these caps, and that comes from an understanding of how deep the problem is.
Absolutely. I think the more we understand the depth of this problem, the more we probably be able to help and reach out for help. So coming to you, Harold, as well, you have been working closely with the government, trying to get the CPS sorted, or trying to at least help in getting people involved to understand and fathom how far this has reached and how potentially dangerous this is. So Harold, just to you, do you believe that the governments across the world, not only in the US, are doing enough right now? Are they in the right direction, or are we still fighting to even get them to understand the basics of how bad the situation is?
Honestly, I think all across the globe, I think every country is struggling, to be honest, and there might be law in place, but then there are in different countries, like there are so much hierarchy and there is so much political barriers from the law enforcement agency that the victim does not get justice. Number one. Number two, the victim does not have the courage to come out and talk. And that is the event like you've done today. And what Robert said about continued presence is a status. It's not a visa. And then we have the U visa and then we have the T visa. So the U visa has a cap of 10,000 applicants per year. And the T visa has a cap of 5,000 applicants per year. And that's never maxed, especially the T visa. And once you get that, you can apply for a permanent residency card. And this is the step that happened to me, right? And I didn't do anything. I'll be very honest. It was the FBI who granted me a continued presence. I had no clue. And even when she gave me, I didn't know what it was. It was after many years when I started advocating and being at the government. That is when I realized everything. It's not happened overnight. And that is the reason that today, we are all together, Indrani, whether it's Sangeet Foundation, Robert Watson, from DC, Hriday Raval and myself, is to educate a common man and community members and victims and survivors. There is something called continued presence. There is a U visa, there is a T visa. So if you are a victim of any crime, especially in the United States of America, if you're a victim of labor trafficking or sex trafficking, please call 1-888-373-7888. And they're going to help you. So that is overall the objective that we need to get to. And other thing, I just want to compliment Robert on the show today on behalf of all the immigrants in the United States of America, and I being a brown guy, and I want to inspire all the people across the globe. That I don't know how I think that Robert needs to answer this question to me. I don't know how he caught hold of me or how, I don't know. People, other day somebody was asking, how did you get on USGLC? I said, I don't know. And then I
was going to ask him that. How did you get that?
Yeah, so let him answer that. And so what I'm trying to say is that, Indrani, it is a very powerful for all the victims and survivors who are watching today.
Yeah.
That these delegates are not biased. They do not judge. So they are just trying to encourage, inspire, like they are here to educate, empower, encourage, enlighten, and employ survivors for a better future. So when people look at me, I tell people, come on, man, you can also do it, especially male. So but at this point, I never had an opportunity to thank Robert. So anyway, I take this platform to thank you, Robert, for appointing me.
Well, Harold, it's my pleasure. And, for those of you who don't know, the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition advocates for international engagement through development and diplomacy funding. And I work in Ohio. I've seen the great work that Harold has done on these issues and bringing attention to the problem. So, hey, I think it was Obama that found you even before I did. So thank you for your contributions. And it's a pleasure to work with you on these things. I mean, these big issues and lots of changes going on in the United States and around the world in respect to internationalism. So lots to talk about. But anyway.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Robert and Harold. But, one question that actually came up by one of our viewers is, again, something that we were talking about. And also the fact that we said, we are a part of this whole congregation, but then how are we supposed, we, the people who are really getting educated through these programs and through what you are trying to do, unless you actually go into the site in your head, when I am researching human trafficking, it's only then that I will think about it, go into the site. How is it? How, a person like me or any of the viewers who are walking down the road, sitting with people beside me, what are the signs that I'm looking for? Or what should click, immediately to say, okay, this guy or this lady seems to be concerned, is something that we probably need to inform the officials. How does that work? Rob, any of you just pitch in and tell me, what is the common man looking for? Of course, without going into the website and, trying to see, unless I decide that I am going to research human trafficking. Anyone?
I'll start a little bit, but I think Hriday, you probably know a little bit more about this. But I think there are a number of signs, especially in places like airports, transit hubs. You'll see these things, but simple signs for any observer. People may appear malnourished, show signs of physical abuse, avoid eye contact, social interaction, have rehearsed responses to things like that, or even branding and things like that. So I actually would love to hear from Harold and Hriday what you all see in your work on the day-to-day. But I think in the United States, it's like I said, it's right there underneath the radar. It's right underneath the surface. If you look hard enough, you will see the signs. Of course, I should say that no one of those things is a sure sign.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, yeah.
But of course, bringing
It
attention
is some trauma for sure.
to see if people are okay is an important step, and oftentimes it's just something as small as that ends up saving somebody. So
adding to what Robert said, number one, I always tell my friends, delegates, whenever I do a presentation, that you should save the human trafficking hotline number on your cell phone and share it with your sons, daughters, husband, family members, and maybe you could share of the US, of India, or even the police hotline number, 911. But in the United States of America, how I educate people or create awareness about the red flags is that labor trafficking in the United States of America happens at restaurants, gas stations, convenience stores, motels, and various other places like warehouses, agriculture, farming. But for an example, like you're going to a restaurant in the US and you find the immigrants, and especially ethnical restaurants, again, I'm telling you, and they'll never get the tips. They'll never have an eye contact, And then when you start a conversation, they met you. And if you find any doubt at that time, I think he or she is a victim of human labor trafficking. Just call this hotline number, which I told you. And they will take care. Why? Number one, you are not into a problem. Nobody's going to question you, nor the perpetrator will come behind you, nor the victim is into a situation. On the contrary, you are saving one life. One victim's life you are saving. And always tell, when you save one victim, you save one survivor. But when you prosecute one perpetrator, you are saving 100 victims.
Absolutely beautiful.
I'll give one classic example, Indrani and Robert and Hriday, is that there's a good American friend of mine when I was to work with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And he got interested, so I showed him about my human trafficking hotline number is to follow me. He then was working for an airlines organization. He told his boss, she was a lady, a manager, American, and she was quite inspired. She saved the number, and then she was filling gas. I don't know to name the gas station. And she went inside to get something, a convenience store, and she sensed and she smelled that this could be a victim of human trafficking, that guy. And she called. Can you imagine? And that guy got rescued. And it was just one slight thing. And others, we usually go to gas stations because it is visible, but it is so invisible. We just go eat and come back because we think, oh, it does not happen in the US. It happens in Cambodia. It will happen in maybe Nepal or some other country, but not in the US. So these small things, just presence of mind is very important. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Hriday, you want to come in on this, especially in India? How is it? I think it's more visible in India to a certain extent, but if you want to just fill us up.
No, it is not visible to the naked eye, of course. So
Okay.
Robert says that's perfectly true. There are not any specific signs. Yes, there are signs that what they told that they don't make eye contact. They are not to speak in open. The perpetrator will speak on behalf of them, and there are certain signs. But the thing is, in India, so human trafficking does happens everywhere, but there are certain factors to it according to the region. For India, if I talk about, there are certain children working on the tea stall. So those children are not a victim of child labor nor a victim of human trafficking. They are just helping their father or their uncle. They are going to school in the morning and helping their dads and uncles. So they are poor. So they are not child labor, though they are below the certain age limit, below 14 and 15, and they are working, but they are not the child labor. The human trafficking occurs in very remote areas. If you go to any factories or something like mines or coal factory, if you find any children working over there, yes, then they are the victim of human trafficking, because no children would willingly go and work, or their parents would make their children work in such factories which are harmful to their body, and that's a very prone area. Many children get to die over there. So these are the places. Also, I would like to say that technology is the main reason behind human trafficking nowadays. Many people are getting trapped into human trafficking through technologies. If I talk about sex trafficking, then there are certain ads coming on social media and something about modeling. Many boys and girls enroll over there to this organization, and they get a contract for modeling, and eventually they get traffic as a sex trafficking. If I talk about labor trafficking, so many Indians are being trafficked to UAE. They are providing their job, they are providing them insurance, and once they reach to UAE, their passport is being kept up from them. Their passport has been hijacked. They are not being able to contact their family. They are not being able to contact to the embassy also, because they are being isolated completely. And this how this happens. So if I talk about India, India is a transit country, India is a source country, and India is a destination country. So what UI does is many people in India are being going to United States of America and are getting trafficked, like what Mr. D'Souza has experienced. So in that situation, India is a source country and US is a destination country. So we are making awareness over here that if you go to the United States of America, don't go through the false visa. Also, if you are having any job offer, please contact with different agencies and cross verify if that company is real or not. See 4 to 5 times, verify it, and then go. So these are certain things. So many people are being trafficked from Nepal to UAE. How? The route is from Nepal to India to Pakistan or UAE. So in that scenario, Nepal is the source, India is the transit country, and the UAE is the destination country. So through this chain, so we can control the human trafficking on the airport by seeing the signs of human trafficking on the airport, and we can control over there. So there are many aspects like this.
Wow. Right. I just wanted to ask Harold also this question. Harold, you were a victim, you are a survivor. What is the difference in the state of mind between being a victim, having gone through it, and been a survivor and trying to work against that same ordeal, if I might use the word, to try and make a place for yourself? Trying and made yourself. My question really is, Harold, you did not speak. From last time that we spoke, you said you had not spoken for a long time. You did not speak. You did not have the guts. You did not have, the ability in a way to speak about it. You were the victim. You were the victim of a society. You were the victim of a situation. Today, you are a survivor. You are working for, you are a speaker for that same cause. That transition, you have made a transition. I just want you to tell us about that transition for the people out there, who are victims and who have become survivors, or who are still victims on their way to trying to survive, if that's the right way to put it.
I think this is a very, important question. I think I'm after a long time somebody has asked me that. But I always tell that survivors are poor starters, but strong finishers. That's one. Number two, that trauma has no expiration date. So people have to get that. You have to be trauma informed. And like today, what Sangeet Foundation is doing, like mental health. Every victim, I went through that mental health. I was not talking for 10 years. 10 years, my mouth was zipped. I could not. I didn't have the courage. My self-esteem, everything was totally destroyed. And I being a guy, that's why I tell you 3 things. All these people ask me. I say I'm a common man, I'm a failure, I'm a sinner. And that is what the guilt was going on in my mind, body, and soul. I failed on 4 P's. I failed as a parent, as a provider, as a protector, and as a person. And that's all. These are all facts in my story. But I flipped those 4 P's, like into passion, purpose, power, and prayers. So it takes time. Like I always tell victims and survivors, you have to give them time. You cannot expect them to change overnight. You have to give them that space. They have to go for counseling. Counseling is a must for every victim. I always tell. I never wanted to go for counseling when the FBI agent and my service provider told me that, Harold, you need to go for counseling. They could see my weakness, but I could not see it. And I said, come on, man, I need status. I need this. You think I'm mentally sick? That is the way I took it. Because counseling in US is common. Every child in the school there is counselor. But in India, it's a foreign concept. Counseling means it's a negative thing. After I went for counseling, I'll tell you one thing very honestly, Indrani, Robert, and Hriday, after 6 months, the counselor, the young lady, told me, Harold, you are always, because every victim in the United States of America of human labor trafficking, he's nicknamed as illegal. So when they call you illegal, you think that you're a criminal. And that is what was going on in my mind, body, and soul. So I used to always tell that, I'm illegal, I'm illegal. So, but Harold, yeah, I've been listening to you for the last 6 months. You come, you say, I'm illegal, I'm illegal. That's what I used to do. And I used to break down, I used to just break down all the time. She said one word and my life changed. She said, Harold, you're not illegal, you're undocumented. So I tell all the immigrants here, do not do any felonies. If you do not have any documents, but you're a good human being. So undocumented relaxes you. And that is what changed me. And after 1 year, she told me, Harold, I used to always tell, man, I was a father, right? I was a husband, I was a son, and I was educated. And I said, man, how did I do this? Like, come on, like I was feeling so guilty as to beat myself up. But Harold, yeah, come on. You're doing over. You need to accept it. You made a mistake, period. That's it. The day I accepted my mistake, my life changed. So, we have to educate people, the victims and survivors, that I always say it is not victim to survivor. That transition is very easy from victim to survivor. But many times out of 10, 9 will go back towards again victimization. Only like 1 will make it. We are focusing like with Robert and all, and with Hriday and you, saying we want every survivor to thrive. We don't want them to survive. We don't want them to stigmatize. What happens in reality when you get to go for a job and they are not coming and identifying themselves as a survivor? They get stigma. Oh, he's a survivor. Come on. He's a survivor. That's fine. He went to that stigma, but he's educated. He's got talent. He's got passion. He's got a dream. How can you stigmatize? Why can't he get a promotion? Why can't he be CEO of a company? Why can't he start his own business? Why can't he make new policies, new procedures for the government? How can you discriminate him? But that is what happens in reality. And that is what I'm trying to change with Eyes Open International, that we want to collaborate with companies or organizations, like we are collaborating with IONX, with Deepak Acharya, so that they can engage or employ victims or survivors in their company, or even of LGBTQ. Who am I to judge? But I'm telling you, don't look them as survivors, look them as human beings, look at their talents, look at their passion. In the end, I have to end with one note, Indrani and Robert and Hriday, is that we ask every child, you'll ask your child, you'll ask your friend's child who's in school, college, hey, come on, man, which college you're going? What is your passion? What's your dream? What do you want to be in life? That's an everyday conversation. But do you all ask any victim or survivor, hey, man, what is your passion? What's your dream? What's your talent? What do you want to be in life? Oh, what did you do before you became a victim? Do we ask that question? No. And do we even try to build that? No, we just, okay, get a job in McDonald's, or get a janitor's job at Greyhound. Okay, that's fine, because you have to pay the bills. But at the same breath, ask him, man, come on, man, good, man, but what's your passion? What do you want to be in life? Thank you.
Yeah, very, very true, Harold. Sorry, Robert, go on.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I appreciated your distinction between undocumented and illegal, and it is an ongoing. It's a political conversation in the United States too, right? And to see how, on the broad scale, the distinction could impact someone's mental health is an important connection that you just illuminated for me. I wanted to share, so that's all.
Yeah, Robert, I just wanted to pick up on what Harold was talking about, that how people, when especially a survivor is trying to go to get a job anywhere in the country, and the biodata or the resume talks about that ordeal. It is very, very true what Harold said. In spite of us being very broad-minded per se, or being being aware, it's very true that it affects the person who is interviewing this man. And that is the truth. We can't deny it, even if we want to deny it. We try to tell the world that we are open to everything. Of course, I am going to employ a survivor. Of course, I am going to, look into his mental health. But the back of my head, I'm thinking, how much will he cost the company? Will he be off because he's going to be mentally sick? Will this be a trauma to him for the rest of the life? And does it affect my revenues? Does it affect my finance? Why? My question to you, Robert, is why can't we change that? Why is it that we are still, in spite of the situation, and we know fully well what we need to do, we don't do it because it does not help us financially, if I may use that. That is a stigma. What Harold said, it is something that happens in every company, every organization. Where were you? You can't have a gap year. So what were you doing in that gap year? It's something that we've all faced. And why is that? Why can't I have a gap year and be by myself and not be answerable for that as long as I am capable of doing my job? Should you not interview me? Should you not talk to me about the job and what I'm delivering to your company and be paid for that, rather than um, kind of, just put a tag on me that, oh, he or she might be difficult for the company? Sorry, Robert. I mean, just something that came
No,
off
that's
from
it.
my mindset.
It's a great question. And I think, it reminds me of the challenge of development generally, right?
Yeah.
We are kind of stuck in some of these old ways of thinking where, where we think, why would I want to spend my tax dollars on international development? People don't see the benefit. And much the same way, at hiring a survivor of human trafficking, people don't see the benefit of that. Or so, I think what's missed in this thinking of this hyper capitalist thinking that you're talking about. Excuse my the lack of a better word, but we don't see that hiring immigrants, hiring survivors of human trafficking is in fact good for our business, good for our communities. Investing in people and places up front is actually, in the long run, better for us. And so I think, in kind of like the welfare conversation, we don't immediately see the benefits of contributing and investing in communities, when in fact, when we actually step out of our comfort zone, reach out, hand up for people, it is in fact much better for us, much better for those people. So like you say, I think it's a mindset problem. There's a kind of a cultural fear of human trafficking victims, even survivors, because it does make us uncomfortable. It does make people uncomfortable. But I think the strength of reincorporating and re-engaging people and bringing people in is the lesson that is learned from international engagement. We're stronger when we actually build up these ties. We're stronger when we invest in people. And lean into their experience, right? Of course, the valuable lessons learned from, Harold, you're surviving, are lessons that can benefit us in society. So I think just seeing the importance of, of diversity, of the compassion, and how it actually does benefit us economically, is the bridge that we need to make, and that's ongoing. That you see that in poverty reduction and the way we approach issues like that as well, right? It takes a changing of our mindset and perception of these things to see the benefits. But all in all, that's long-term education and development. I hope that answers your question. I know that's kind of out there, but.
No. I agree. That's what I'm just trying to get out to the people, that we understand it. I think, when we are putting up a resume, every time you don't fill up that 1 year in between when you did nothing, it keeps popping back and it doesn't actually go through because you haven't filled that 1 year.
Yeah. And like maybe you did something very valuable that year, or you needed it for your mental health, right? And it actually does make you more productive, or even a better employee because you have had the space. But we don't often see how those things can be benefits, and it's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate, and it is something that is happening, as Harold rightly said, that this is the reality. In spite of all the programs we do, all the talk shows that we try and educate people, when it hits home, it's a different story altogether. And I think that's what we need to talk about, and we need to tell people that a survivor is always going to be a more hardworking person, because he or she has a point to prove to the world, and he or she has more a right to that position than a person who's just been there just because of everything else, but having survived that situation. I mean, that's my take on it. But Hriday, just coming to you as a final, one of the final questions that I would like to do is that in India, especially, Harold has spoken so often about, and he's spoken in all his programs I've seen, so important it is for counseling to take place, that anything, to do with PTSD issues, to do with how these people go into the different states of mind. I know in India, being from India myself, that any kind of counseling is considered a huge taboo, especially if it's an unmarried man or an unmarried woman. It's like, oh my God, then you will never get married, because that will come on your resume as well, isn't it? That you have been into counseling. How do you think we can change that in these, I won't say the lesser educated, but lesser knowledgeable people of society amongst that group? And that goes, across the world. But let's start with India there.
So for India, I say that it's a very big stigma. If you go
Yeah.
to a counselor or a psychiatrist, then it's a very big stigma. Nobody will accept you that you are normal. You are considered a mad or something. But if you want to curb this, the main thing to do is awareness. Do more and more awareness about it, like what we are doing, the Sangeet Foundation we are doing. We are also doing many events like this on human trafficking, on mental health. We are making people aware that yes, mental health is not a problem. Everyone faces mental health issues in each phase of their life, but they need to open up. We have to taught our parents, because they are from the older generation. In that generation, people were thinking that yes, it's a thing that we should not open in the society, that my child or myself, I am facing mental issues. So we have to taught them. We have to taught our newer generation about it. That yes, it's not a stigma is not the same. Unless and until you don't speak about it, you cannot heal yourself. To heal yourself, to do progress, to be a better man or woman, you have to speak about it. You have to let go of that feeling that yes, I have been into this trauma, and awareness is the main thing for it. Unless you don't aware people about it, that is not a stigma, it's not the same. People will not understand. We need to educate and we need to make awareness about it.
Absolutely. And I think coming to Harold and Robert as well, is that, John Tada, so he's the founder of Sangeet Foundation. He has been trying really hard to make mental health a part of the curriculum, part of something, that children, even as young as 10, 11, 12, start becoming aware of it, along with, this kind of, these are the problems that people can face. You are growing up. These are the things that can happen. Do you, so coming to some, we are obviously trying to do that in the UK through Sangeet Foundation, but do you think, for Harold and Robert, this would be an important thing to be included in the curriculum, so that even, while these children are growing up, they become aware and they are more socially educated, if I might use that, to recognize such situations and be able to handle it better? Yeah, Robert, we'll start with you.
So, I mean, certainly, it's much like understanding the value of development, incorporating mental health into our understanding of health generally is ongoing process. But of course, learning how to, and I think this is what you're getting at, teaching children, young people, how to cope and how to, how it was to maintain the garden of their mental health, right? Is an essential skill. I mean, and especially with all the pressures these days, whether they be economic or educational, there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of pressure on people. So, I mean, cultivating those skills for everyone is super important. And of course, it helps alleviate some of the stigma that goes along with that as well.
Yeah, and I also, so even bringing in human trafficking, because I'm a teacher myself, and I would love for the kids to see something like this, because, coming from, going to a privileged school, they are really not aware that something like that happens. But then again, as a teacher, I would also worry, am I traumatizing them? But I think in bits and pieces, if we actually get them to know that this happens in the world outside, you are going to go out in the world, you will face people like this. Maybe it's not such a bad idea, such a bad thing. Harold, what do you think?
I think number one, Indrani, I will say that 100% mental health should be a curriculum in the school, or including in college, not only in the school, including in college. But before that, this curriculum should be a part of life in each and every family, especially with the parents or, like grandparents. That basically when I'm married or I've got kids, I should not think, oh, I wanted to be a doctor, I could not be, so my son should be a doctor, my daughter should be a doctor. Come on, he or that child might be having some other passion. Like we have to understand that as a parent, and that traumatizes the kid and that creates mental issue. We are creating mental issue for our own kids more than the school, because Most of the times we do not care. We try to control. We should not control. We should only care for our kids and tell them, okay, do what you want. Okay, you want to just do music? Do music. Like Happiness Through Music and Arts, what Sangeet Foundation is doing, Jayanta Ray, right? And if son or daughter wants to just play, I want to play tennis. Okay, play tennis, man. Do it. Take it that as every profession is good. Just because I'm into I'm a lawyer, so my son should be a lawyer. That is what I see most of the time. Parents, they focus. They know you have to be, and the child has no choice. We do not give a choice to a child. And choice is very important. And we need to care. We don't have to control. We always control, and the child is scared. He does not tell. He does not communicate. I've seen so many cases where a child later on, when he's a teenager or in the college, has committed suicide. I always say suicide or silence is not an option, a choice, or a solution. And these things are, and this is so common. And it is such a small thing that could have been avoided. Suicide is something. It's not a sickness. It can be prevented at 100%. But that comes from within the family or within ourselves. So this, I really agree with you. Like, this curriculum has to begin actually from the house, and it has to begin with me. It's not like, I say today I tell very proudly, I have 2 boys. And initially I was coming from India, we always focus study. No, so my kids, I said, fail, man, no problem. There's nothing wrong. And today both my sons are doing good. Older son is working for Tesla. Younger fellow is going to France next month to play tennis. If everything goes well, you'll see him in the Wimbledon. So I said, come on, give it a shot. Don't worry. We'll there to back you. Robert is there to back me, and I'll back him.
There you go, Robert. You are under pressure now.
Robert is a nice guy. See, this is what I want to tell to the audience globally. See, it is not about preaching. It is about practicing. And that is what I really respect people across the globe, including India, but the Americans. When I got appointed by President Barack Obama on December 16th, 2015, January 5th, I was in the White House. Okay. From that day till now, whenever I interact, they always call me Honorable, everybody, not me, Honorable Harold D'Souza. And they never talk us about that we are survivors. And whatever recommendations and advice we give, it has been implemented. Other thing I want to tell about Robert also, whenever I call him, he'll pick up the call. Because see, there are certain things about survivors, they struggle to make emailing and all the stuff, I prefer text messages and calling. That's me. I don't know why. I cannot talk to anybody. I cannot do any conversation on an email without seeing that person. Once I've seen Robert, I'm comfortable physically. That's me. But I cannot do anything without seeing a person. But that is me. I cannot meet anybody in a public place, in a restaurant, anywhere. It's me. I cannot. I don't know. I prefer they come to my house. That is my comfort level. So then many times I think that I'm struggling something or something like that. But what I'm going to share is that we as a community members have to understand, regard and respect all the small things. And as a parent, and Robert is doing a wonderful job. He has helped me so much in the last couple of weeks with my website. And this is a reality. Okay. He has got me connected. And those delegates are Ivan is there, Larry is there. So they're all helping me. So I think I always believe it's a teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. Number 1. Number 2, I alone, Eyes Open International or Sangeet Foundation or, like Robert Watson from USGLC and other non-profit, we cannot stop human trafficking. It's not about, we need to collaborate. If we collaborate, yes, we can make a difference. We can make a change. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think it's something that's a beautiful way to actually end our program on, is that we can make a difference. And if we work together, I think we can make this change and, work towards just one final question that keeps coming to my mind, especially with with whenever I've spoken to Harold, Robert, if I just come to you and Hriday to end this off, is that the idea of the victim believing that it is their fault that they are in that situation, that is something that concerns, that why should the victim, if he agrees or she agrees that they are victims of a situation, they are victims of a perpetrator, right? So the fact that it goes on in their head that I am the victim, it is my fault that I am in this situation, and that actually pushes them to that point of, as Harold was saying, of suicide or going into a depression onto a place of no return. Robert, what do you think about that? I mean, what should these victims tell themselves? What is it that they can do that would stop them getting into that small zone, where they are pushing themselves. And I'll finish off with Hriday, but to start off with you, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I would, I'm no psychologist, but I would say it's hard to be powerless. And even when we are in a position where we are powerless, or the subject of somebody else's cruelty, we still are inclined to want to put it on ourselves, or to say that it should be in my power to free myself, or to fix my situation. And Harold and Hriday, you can speak to this more than I, but wanting to care for your family and wanting to be the one with the agency. It's almost like Alcoholics Anonymous or something like that. I mean, it's a bad example, but to admit to yourself, to say like, oh, I have been the subject, I've been victimized, and it's to make that step is hard, because you do have to give up. You have to relinquish some of this, some of the power that you think you might have, or acknowledge that. And I imagine that's a personal thing that we struggle with. Everybody struggles with, right? So, it does touch on some of the darker challenges that we have with our own egos, but that's what I see.
Yeah, absolutely. Hriday, just to finish with you, what do you think about that? The fact that victims start believing that, I am the mistake over here, if that's the right word to use. I am the reason why all of this is. How can they help themselves?
So basically, we are humans. We are not gods. Humans are allowed to make mistakes. I'm talking about mistakes, not crimes. Humans are allowed to make mistakes. The main mistake is letting your downfall overcome you.
Sure.
You have to be strong. You are the hero. You are the heroine of your life. You have to get overcome from the situation and be prosperous, be happy, make your future brighter. If you are not doing that thing, then you are making a mistake. You can't change your past, but you can change your future. So not getting the negative thoughts in your mind that yes, I failed in this thing. Yes, you can fail, you're human. But the mistake is you are not getting over it and not prospering. So it's okay if you make mistakes. We are humans. Just go through it and make yourself proud by making good things then.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely. I think that's a very, very important message to take away, that you are the hero and you are the hero of your own life. And that is what you have to make your life out to be. Whether you are a survivor, you are a victim, or even a common person like any of us. So thank you so much to the three of you. I mean, it's been such an empowering, empowering discussion. It has been, I'm sure the people out there, our viewers, have really understood something. It's not about enjoying this talk show, it is about learning, it's about educating. And as I said to Harold, and and of course from you, Robert and Hriday, is I learn so much every time I can talk to people and I can understand, because I am one of those people, one of the viewers who are who don't know much about it until I go and do a research on it. And just by doing these programs, we try to tell people that it's not uncommon, it's not unreal, it is there, and we need to be able to address it. So thank you so much. It's been such another wonderful episode with all of you, and we hope to see you again. And on behalf of Eyes Open International and Sangeet Foundation, I would just request everyone out there that please extend that hand to the person that you think is a victim, can be a survivor. And we in Eyes Open International and Sangeet Foundation are obviously on the other side to hold that hand of yours. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you.